My name is Adam Asher, and I travel the world in search of adventure and purpose. I take you to some of the most remote corners of the globe to witness some of the most inspiring acts of service on the planet. Today, we're in Nicaragua, Central America, on our way to the remote village of Kansas City, on the banks of the Matagalpa River, to see what remarkable things Mission Hope is doing there. You ready? Let's go. Welcome to Managua, Nicaragua. A friend of mine, Peter, is going to pick me up, and we're going to go grab some dinner, hang out a little bit, make some plans for the next few days. But yeah, this is the capital of Nicaragua here in Central America, and the last time I was here was in 2005, so it's been a minute. But it's good to be back. Changed a little bit. Hey man, how are you?
Good to see you.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah man, jealous to see you.
Looking forward to it. I like your ride.
Thanks.
So what year is this?
97, man. She's a big girl, but good.
That's awesome.
Yeah, man. All
Gets
right.
the job done down here.
It does indeed. Rock and roll, huh?
Okay, this is Managua, Nicaragua's capital, located over here on the Pacific coast. But we've come to check out Mission Hope, and their base camp is way up here in a community called Kansas City. This is a remote part of the country, so to get there, we will have to travel across country and upriver. This whole trip should take us about 2 days if everything goes well. But of course, along the way, we'll explore the country's culture and history as we get to know the Nicaragua of today. I've heard so many great things about Mission Hope, I can't wait to be there in person, and I'm glad you're going with us. All right, well, it's time to go to the market because the way I look at it, a trip to a country isn't complete unless you go to one of their authentic marketplaces, and Peter is kind enough to take us to El Mercado Masaya, right?
Yep.
Masaya.
So there are two kind of open-air markets, if you will, in Masaya. The one we're going to go to has more crafts, handmade items. Very nice, very well done, generally made right here in Masaya.
I love coming to these markets when I travel. You get to experience local culture, meet the people, and do a little shopping. Peter was telling us earlier that here in Masaya, they make a ton of shoes. Part of the industry here. ¿Él hace las botas o no? So the guy makes the boots too.
Le traen unos fotos también y el estilo y él toma las medidas y se hace la medida.
Oh, so he can custom make them as well. ¿Cómo te llamas?
Wow.
Mucho gusto. Hoy no fuiste a la escuela como es sábado. ¿Pero sí vas a la escuela?
Sí.
¿Sí? ¿En qué grado estás?
Segundo.
Segundo, qué bien, qué bien. Vendiendo aguacates y la otra fruta, ¿qué es? Pero bueno, gracias. Y si necesitamos aguacate, te vamos a avisar. Okay, gracias. Sweet thing. So she's in second grade. She is the youngest of 4. And she does go to school, but of course this is Saturday. So she's making good use of her time, and she's selling fruit in the market. Makes some money. Puts things in perspective. ¿Qué estás haciendo? ¿Qué vas a hacer con esto? Una rosa. ¿Cómo aprendiste a hacer esto?
Un chaval.
So Manuel here, he and his wife own this section of the market, and they obviously sell a lot of Nicaraguan products, textile products, clothing and things like that. Like this beautiful dress here, este vestido. I don't know, I think I'd be pretty proud if this was me sitting here on a beautiful Saturday, enjoying the shade. We're about 40 minutes, I guess, outside of Managua. The town is called Catarina. You see La Laguna de Apoyo, which is actually rather large, we have a bird's eye view of it, so it seems a little bit small when you're looking at it from up here. And up here, this large hill volcano that we see off to our right is Mombacho. Interesting little bit of history. 200 years ago or so, it erupted and left those isletas, or little islands, in Lake Nicaragua. It's beautiful. All right, so I first started coming to Nicaragua in 1998. So still have some friends down here. I am about to meet one of those friends who I haven't seen probably 15 years, which makes me older than I should be. But it sure did me good to see Juan again. 20 years goes by in the blink of an eye. And then a chance like this comes along and it makes you think back on what life was like so long ago. Little did we know what would happen in those 20 years. Time is a funny thing. I'm not saying I'm getting old. I'm just saying time's a funny thing. This road here, this is a lot better than it was in 1999.
Oh my goodness, yeah, totally. It was a one lane each direction. They really expanded it, what, 2002? Like you're gonna see the Masiya volcano in about 2 or 3 minutes. We'll be in the old original lava flow. In fact, when you were here in '98, this had almost no trees in it. It was just kind of all lava rock.
This is the Masaya volcano, in Spanish, El Volcán Masaya. This particular volcano is active. Now, it hasn't erupted for 200 plus years, but it is active. And right here, as I stand here, right over my right shoulder, if you look down there, you can actually see the hot molten lava. So it is the real deal. It is rather warm. I can feel the heat coming off the lava right here as we stand here today. So we are where?
Right here in Managua.
All right.
And tomorrow morning, we'll crack it on. We're going to head out to the isthmus between the two big lakes.
Now, can I point something out?
Yeah.
I don't see a road.
Well, Adam, there isn't a road. There's a dirt track. I made this same trip a year ago, and it was extremely difficult. Destroyed the transmission on the vehicle. So what we will do bright and early on Monday is we will jump in a boat, a skiff, if you will, for 6 passengers. And that boat will carry us up the Rio Escondido. It's a huge lagoon. There are points when we're crossing it where you won't see any land. Then there's a small man-made waterway connecting the top of Pearl Lagoon, that's called Toplock, to the Rio Grande de Matagalpa, which is a huge river, highest volume river in Nicaragua. And eventually, by the end of the day, we hope to be right here in Kansas City. You can see Macantaca on the map.
All right, so just to recap, tomorrow from Managua to Bluefields, that's all on land.
Yep.
It'll be over land. And then we'll be in the skiff from Bluefields to the village of Kansas City the following day.
Yeah.
And I think we're in good hands. Looking forward to the adventure.
Yeah, me too.
Well, good morning. It is just about 6 o'clock, and we are on the road bright and early. We started the day here in Managua, and we've got about an 8 to 10 hour drive ahead of us on our way to Bluefields. Now, the game plan is to make that part of the trip today, so that'll be overland. We'll spend the night in Bluefields, and then tomorrow we will get in the skiff, a small boat, and then head up the river to the final destination. And you also mentioned that the final leg of this trip, there is more of a path, right? And not so much a highway?
Exactly right. So this is it's really, for the first time in history, this country is being connected by land. So the government has been working hard for a number of years building a cross-country road, the first of its kind, connecting Bluefields to really the rest of Nicaragua. And the road's not finished, so we will enjoy what is finished, and then we'll see what's waiting.
History has not been kind to Nicaragua. A brutal dictatorship in the 1970s, horrific civil war between the Contras and the Sandinistas that was in the 80s, Then you've got natural disasters like Hurricane Mitch in 1998. Devastated the country. I was here. I saw it. And economic progress? That's been tough too. Today, Nicaragua is the second poorest nation in the Americas. And in recent years, there's been renewed political unrest. People who criticize the government and paid a terrible price for doing so. The idea behind this road that we're traveling today is to tie the two sides of the country together. But the road isn't finished.
So it's not impossible that we could encounter an ambush. These sort of things happen. So if we do, at that point, we'll make a very, very quick decision. Either we'll try to drive through it, in which case I'll just say ambush, get down, and we'll just try to drive through it. Otherwise, I'll say ambush, stand down, and we'll just stop and play along and probably get robbed.
So I talked Peter into letting me have a turn driving, which is great. I love to drive in these Latin American countries. It's just a sense of adventure in and of itself. You have to have sort of a different mindset when you're passing these vehicles down here. Rule number one, don't wait for the dotted line. Rule two, trust your judgment. Rule three, don't be afraid to slam on the brakes and try again in a minute. Rule four is go hard. Okay, we've been on the road now for about 6 hours. We're maybe 3 hours, maybe 2.5, 3 hours out of Bluefields. We are on that stretch of the road where it's kind of a road, kind of a path. Now, we go through sections like this where it's pretty dry, rocky, a little bit bumpy. And we just try to keep the velocity up because we'll go through these patches that'll be wet and we don't want to get stuck in them.
Turismo. Turismo quieren conocer. Abuelo con su gran barba. Oh, eso es. Okay, gracias. There's a lot of paranoia now that this road is going in, which just shows how divided the country really is. No one in Managua wants people from the coast to be able to exit and enter the coast without any sort of controls, because they think they're all drug dealers. And everyone in the Atlantic coast thinks everyone from Managua are like pandilleros, like gangsters. And so no one wants the free movement of people. Everyone wants the road. Bluefields is known as a culture shock of rusting and squalor. Very great people, huge Caribbean presence, a lot of English speakers.
The culture here is different. It's very much a mix of Nicaraguan culture, but also what I would describe as maybe an island culture. A lot of English is spoken here, Pidgin English. So I guess that's one of the reasons why it is a unique town to spend some time in. From Managua to here, you could sense the need level go up. I mean, you could definitely tell there's a great need here. Tomorrow in Kansas City, we're going to see that level of need rise even more. And that's what we're going to do tomorrow. All right, good morning. It is Monday morning and I am headed now down to the waterfront. Peter and I are gonna get a skiff from Raul, and we have about an 8-hour boat trip up the river to Kansas City. So that's where we're headed now. Side note, it's been raining all night and it still kind of is rainy out there. So certainly in the back of my mind that it's gonna be a little bit of a rough trip. So we'll see. Okay, the rest of our journey will be over here on the east coast of Nicaragua. where we find several different cultures and people groups. We've got the descendants of Europeans, Africans, and native populations. Of course, to some degree, these cultures have blended, but in so many ways they remain separate and distinct from one another. Oh yeah, keep in mind that during the colonial period, this part of Nicaragua was ruled by the British Empire. So it's not just Spanish that's spoken here. Let me put it this way. This is the Caribbean coast of Nicaragua. It's different over here. The people feel forgotten by their own government. They feel taken advantage of, and in some cases, they don't even consider themselves to be Nicaraguan. So yeah, this is a divided nation, not just because there was a civil war here, but because the Caribbean coast has been forgotten and neglected by so many for so long. But here's some good news. This is where Mission Hope has chosen to work.
Okay, couple thoughts. First of all, it is absolutely beautiful out here. Second, the water's a little bit choppy, and that probably has something to do with the storm that is ahead. So we have called an audible. We're going to stop here and hopefully grab some breakfast. I've been out here on the boat for a couple hours, so we're going to grab some breakfast. And interesting thing, everybody here in this community speaks English. And I'm gonna grab some breakfast and get back out on the water. This was a British protectorate for many years. There's 3 different languages we've got going on here. We've got English, Spanish,
and Miskito. Miskito were the first people that were found here when Columbus came here. And then, of course, the whites came from Europe, then the blacks with the trade, the slave trade. A lot of ships didn't reach the United States, and they got shipwrecked, and people got off the ships and ended up staying here. But right here, we have 4 little communities together, which is Haulover, Pearl Lagoon, Raitipura in the back, and Awas. Awas and Raitipura are strictly Miskito. Pearl Lagoon is what we call Creole. We speak English.
It's one of the things I noticed when I was in Bluefields. Some of the people there don't really consider themselves Nicaraguan. Is that?
That's this whole area, really. People are, well, basically we've not been very happy with the way central government has treated this whole area for centuries. I'm not talking just about this government right now,
right,
or the Somoza regime or whatever.
Just in general.
We're talking about in general. 200-300 years ago, they've just been taking the riches out of here and have not been investing in this area.
A couple hours from our final destination of Kansas City, you'll find this small outpost town, about your only option for supplies of any kind in this area.
We're in La Cruz. La Cruz is here on the Rio Grande de Matagalpa. It's on the Matagalpa River. It is a larger town than any of the other communities we've been in. So this is the big town. I think it has 1, maybe 2 streets in it, but they have a little bit of a market scene going on.
For me, this is what travel is all about. The chance to see the world, to see their world as it is, and always to make time to meet the people along the way. People's lives are different, and yet we are exactly the same. It means something to us when we're seen and heard.
These are fried plantain chips. I mean, take a look at them. I mean, they look delicious, frankly. So she's obviously got the little slicer to thinly slice them. Here she's frying them over a wood fire, and I'm sure they're delicious. All right, so I have some sunglasses, but I'm gonna get some other sunglasses. I think it's a pretty good investment because I learned a very valuable lesson riding that speedboat all across the rivers and the lagoons and all that. So the wind's a little bit tough, especially if it rains. So I'm gonna get something like this and then maybe rock it out on the way back like this. Now I might also, I learned from some other guys, I might need to find like a scarf. Some of these pros know how to protect themselves from the elements. So. All right, easy enough. Another 20 quarter de banc. I got my bandana, I got my sunglasses, and in a couple of days when it's time to make the trek back home, this time I'm gonna be ready. So this guy is on-air talent, and he calls baseball here in Nicaragua.
Por ejemplo, damas y caballeros, señores y señores, bienvenidos todos y todas a una audición más de transmisión deportiva. ¿Cuál es la pila Rayovac? Que es la pila tremenda en duración, obra Rayovac, alcalina, máximo rendimiento, menor precio, pilas Rayovac, distribuido altitude, solo calidad. Estamos a través de Radio Cinica 95.9 FM estéreo, transmite desde Brooklyn, en Atlantic City.
You're great. Excelente.
I've worked in radio for years, but I couldn't do that. Nicaragua's got talent. I don't know his whole story, but it was important to him to share his talent with me and with you.
Todo un profesional.
Así es. Gracias.
We couldn't stay for long. Our adventure awaits. But I'm glad we took the time here in this river rest stop town of La Cruz.
We've been out here on the river and the lagoon now for about 6-7 hours, and we're almost there. We are moments away from pulling up at Kansas City. I'm glad you're with us. I look forward to getting to know the people of Kansas City and the surrounding communities, and in particular, looking forward now to getting to see what Mission Hope does here in this remote area of Nicaragua. Almost there. Gentlemen, how are we? What's up, bro? Good to see you. Welcome. So this is Kansas City.
Yeah, welcome to Kansas City.
Of course, here we are in Kansas City. My friend Mike Reinsel is here. Thanks for having us. You were telling me just minutes ago that all of this used to be just jungle.
2.5 years ago, nothing but trees.
I'm going to need you to tell me all about it, how this got started, why you guys chose this area up here, everything that you're doing, why you're doing it. We're going to get into that a little bit later.
Awesome.
But you were going to show me as well where we're...
Let me show you where you're going to bunk out.
Where I'm going to throw my suitcases.
There you go. Little tight quarters, but comfortable. Hopefully nobody in the crowd snores.
We are way off the grid up here in Kansas City. It's a beautiful place, but it is a blast from the past. I guess in some ways it feels a little bit like we've walked back in time. No electricity, no running water, not in this area. It's a different life than what we're used to. And in some ways it's a beautiful thing. In other ways you see it and you realize their lives they're hard up here. It isn't easy.
And of course, one of the most important things is making sure that these precious people have clean water.
You might imagine in a place like this, there's a lot of different ways that people get water. Our job today is to make sure that what they're getting is safe And if it's not, we figure out how it can be. Well, you guys are both civil engineers who specialize in water treatment. What's the purpose of running these tests?
Yeah, so last year we were out in Kansas City and also Anglo-America for a separate project, but they had us test one of their wells that was of concern. Most people did not want to drink from it. So we ran some samples and they came back very high in metals. And so that elevated some of the concern for the drinking water quality in particularly the wells, but also the rain barrels, which serve as the primary source. So bacteria contamination as well as the metals. And so what we're doing on this trip is visiting the 6 core villages and running samples on their deep wells, their 5 deep wells, as well as the more common hand-dug wells, which they actually dig themselves, are about 30 feet deep. And then the rain barrels at the homes. And some of those are communal, some of them are specifically for that household, so making sure they're good enough to drink.
Tell me 2 things. What is this and what's going on with it?
¿Qué es esto y qué es lo que está pasando con esto?
¿Qué es esto? Estos son frijoles que a nosotros nos sirve para comer y también nos sirve para vender.
This is beans. What is really useful for them because it's part of the basic food for them and also one of the economical support because they sell it. They sell this product.
El sol no calienta, entonces él se nace y ya no sirve para comer ni para vender.
So when it's raining too much, like it's not usual in this time of the year, too much rain. They need the sun for just mature and they start getting rotten and it's not useful for eat or sell the product.
I mean, this is potentially it's devastating really for the community.
Por familia así, aquí por lo menos el hijo mío ya tiene como 15 quintales, que no sirve para nada.
Yeah, for example, his son have like 1,500 pounds when it's already just is rotten. Yeah, it's not useful for anything. Almost 70% of all the product in the region, they lost for the rain.
They lost 70%?
Yes, they lost 70%.
Because it's raining too much.
It was raining too much.
I've been hit with a contrast since I've been here. There's great need up here. You can see it everywhere you look, and it's shocking, actually, in many ways. We're getting a chance firsthand to see the difference that Mission Hope is making through the projects up here, the things they're doing, their different areas of focus.
Yo soy una médica en salud pública. Yo tengo mi especialidad, salud pública, la atención también, pero los médicos que somos en salud pública queremos más que la gente se cuide, prevenga y no se enferma, pero tenemos que también atender a los que están enfermando. Yo vivo aquí, en la comunidad, o sea, yo no salgo, yo estoy aquí de lunes a domingo, entonces vivo aquí, ¿no? O sea, demostrar que tú estás haciendo cosas con ellos y que quieres realmente atenderles y vives lo que ellos están sintiendo. Pues visitamos 300 familias de las 5 comunidades de Macantaca, Macantaquita, Betania, Anglo-América y Kansas. Entonces, ¿por qué los niños se pueden enfermar? ¿Cómo están? ¿Por qué las mujeres se enferman?
Le iba a preguntar en cuanto a ayer, la niña que vino, que se había cortado la pierna. ¿Cómo resultó eso? Nosotros estuvimos y vi que usted la preparó durante un tiempo temporal. ¿Cómo terminó el proceso? ¿Qué tuvo que hacer usted para que...?
La suturamos y que ya no lo vieron, porque fue un poquito más doloroso.
Sí, pobrecito.
Pero bueno, esta niña afortunadamente la pudimos atender aquí, resolver aquí. Yo la veo en su casa, veo que no se infecte, porque el siguiente cosa que puede ocurrir es que se infecte porque ellos se bañan en el río, pero eso es a lo que estamos expuestos cada día. La semana pasada tuvimos una más pequeña de 3 años que su mamá la llevó a cortar leña y un árbol, una rama grande cayó sobre ella y le partió la pierna. Esa ya se fue a Bluefield.
This clinic opened about a month ago, and there's a doctor that works here out of this clinic, and this clinic serves communities all up and down this river, not just the people here in Kansas City, but they come from hours around. They boat in to receive medical attention here, and that is a huge difference for the families all around Kansas City. Jim and Maria Powell, great to have you here. Great to see you.
Good to be here.
Now you guys are pastors in Iowa, right?
Yep, Bettendorf, Iowa.
You're here in Nicaragua working with Mission Hope. Why? What brought you here?
One of the great things about Mission Hope is they don't just come in and play a video and ask for donations. They build relationships not only with the people in the regions they work, but with the churches that are working with them.
You guys have made the decision as a church to sponsor a community here in Nicaragua through Mission Hope.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit though about your relationship to Mission Hope. How does that relationship work with the church, you guys back home?
The mission that they're trying to accomplish is something that we really feel that would really change generations out here.
And that's why the church has decided to sponsor one of these communities.
Yeah, and it'll be a long-term relationship. It'll be something that we'll be working with for, the next dozen years. That's one of the most challenging parts of it, because some of the need is obvious. If we say we need to secure water sources and food sources and disaster relief and things like that, there's sort of this hierarchy of needs, but as you do those things you form deeper relationships, which then gives you opportunity to speak of faith and life, the kingdom, the gospel of our Lord Jesus. But it can't be just sort of a come in, set up a tent, preach, and then leave. It just can't be that. It has to be something where they actually see the purpose and the love and the mission and the vision of Jesus through each of us.
Here at the base camp, the people here, the people that interact with Mission Hope, I know why that's their name, because there is hope for these people around here. You can see it in their countenance, you can see it in their eyes. Mission Hope is making a difference. You see it, you feel it.
So what we're doing on this trip is visiting the 6 core villages and running samples on their deep wells, their 5 deep wells, as well as the more common hand-dug wells. So when we test bacteria, we put them in the incubator for 24 hours. Right now we're testing for total coliform. These are all of the samples we took in Makantaka, and they're processing. And we're about to count the colonies and process another batch. Get a good visual. So here are the rain barrels. And so obviously you can see a clear difference in quantity. I mean, this one has 1 colony. And then this one has 213. This is just the bacteria, so we are not running the metals yet. We'll run the metals tomorrow. But as far as bacteria goes, the best thing you can do is prevent things from getting into the well. And so that's where the covers will come into place. The treatment, like basic treatment, would be chlorine. A little chlorine goes a long way though.
Almost 70% of all the product in the region, they last for the rain.
They lost 70%?
Yes, they lost 70%.
Because it's raining too much.
It was raining too much.
Right now they work for today to live for today. That's how they think. And not that we're completely changing how they think, but we're reshaping so they're thinking forward, having a vision for the future in a different way than they do today.
So we have a 2-step process to help here. And we rely completely on local agricultural experts. We call it a pilot plot. You equip some of the ag leaders with the seeds, the tools, the training necessary to see what works, what doesn't work. And then once we're very confident what works and what doesn't, you scale that up. And you start sharing seeds. And that's what takes this from a 1-season project to a sustainable long-term movement of food security.
When you think farming, it's important to remember that agriculture here might not look anything like the farmland back home. I'm walking in the forest, only it's much more than that. This is where they grow some of their crops. And if these guys weren't here to open my eyes to that fact, I would have missed the trees for the forest.
He said in this entire area, well, again, you kind of look out there and you think, it's the jungle. Right? Kind of is, but they have planted 300 or more of these granadillo trees. And again, it's all a part of the community development. It's a part of the investment. It's a part of working with and partnering with these people out here to help them make their lives better. And so it's really cool to get a tour of a place like this and to see, much like the Matrix, right? They look out here, I just see trees, but they see the different kinds of banana trees, the granadillo trees, the other fruit trees, aguacate, which avocado, and just a variety of different things. So great things happening out here in the forest.
I find this sort of thing fascinating, but I am definitely no farmer. I've got a lot to learn, so I ask a lot of questions, and I do my best to understand. But I figure, hey, look, I'm here. I might as well help out.
Check it out. So this is step 2 in the process. Obviously, we were back there with the guys, and they were knocking them out of the tree, collecting them, and so forth. Then they put them together into these piles where the next phase begins, and like what Estefany is doing right here. So she's cutting them in half. She is scraping out the seeds or the meat of the cacao plant. Obviously, those are the parts they're not going to use, so they get discarded over here. And I think what is significant, there's a couple of things here. First of all, it's all a part of Mission Hope's investment and helping them think long term about this process and the harvesting of the cacao plant. The other thing that's interesting for all you chocolate lovers out there, this is chocolate. This is where chocolate comes from. I'm being told that from this cacao tree, they are actually going to take the seed because it's producing a lot of fruit. So they know what they're doing here. They're not only going to harvest the cacao from this tree, but also use it as the seed tree for the future generations. All right, if I get bit by a snake out here, just keep filming. Okay? All right, can you hear that? Those are what I would call howler monkeys. They're mad. So Catalino, tell me, you were saying there are 3 different types of monkeys out here, and you have 3 different terms for them.
Sí, son monos, pero se disfrazan como ese negro que canta es un congo, que él es muy arisco. Él es pesado también, más grande, tiene más habilidades para volar, para de rama en rama.
Shame on me. There's actually 3 different kinds of monos out here. They're all a part of the natural habitat. At least one of them likes to howl.
La atención también, pero los médicos que somos en salud pública queremos más que la gente se cuide, prevenga y no se enferma, pero tenemos que también atender a los que están enfermando. Y hoy tenemos una señora que probablemente tiene malaria.
¿Hay malaria aquí en Kansas City?
No, viene o del Pacífico. Nosotros no tenemos malaria
lo contraen ahí y vienen para acá.
Sí, son importados. Casos que trae alguien que viene con el problema Se queda un tiempo y el mosquito pica y transmite. Todo paciente que viene como ella, con fiebre, con escalofrío, el Ministerio de Salud deja un pequeño equipo con láminas, que después podemos verlo. Entonces nosotros tomamos la muestra de sangre de un dedo, pinchamos, extendemos, enviamos esa muestra al Ministerio de Salud, donde estuvimos ayer en la Cruz. Ellos examinan para ver si es positivo o negativo, pero independientemente nosotros ya empezamos aquí el tratamiento que está ahí en la cajita. Es así, la señora ya está mejor.
You guys have made the decision as a church to sponsor a community here in Nicaragua through Mission Hope Communities.
Yeah, and it'll be a long-term relationship. It'll be something that we'll be working with for, the next dozen years.
Siente uno, ¿verdad?, el corazón lleno de amor, sí, ¿verdad? Y entonces, digo yo, antes vivíamos como abandonados, sí. Hoy, mejor dicho, los encontramos dichosos, pero tenemos bastante.
¿Se acuerdan lo que me dijo la primera vez que la conocí?
Sí, y ahí porque estábamos tristes porque ya no teníamos un ambiente de nada.
Que ahora hay luz, ¿se acuerdan que me dijo que
hay luz, sí.
And as she just explained to us, before Mission Hope was here, things were tough. Significant that Doña Santos would say that. She's the one that's been here this entire time. She knows what it was like before. She knows what it's like now. Mission Hope, you guys that support Mission Hope, have made a difference here for Doña Santos, her family, and people all up and down the river. You guys also take what you call a holistic approach to the relationship out here in Kansas City. Tell me what you mean by holistic.
Holistic means a couple of things for us. So one is in terms of the scope of our work and the projects that we're doing, instead of just doing the one-off project of drilling a well or building a latrine or doing an educational initiative or training pastors, we're taking a holistic approach, and it's based on that front-end assessment. And we're looking at the whole of the human need. But it's also around the relational and the physical and the spiritual and the emotional part of the human condition, because that is really important. And so it's not just rushing in to do projects, but it's looking at the whole person and how do you address that whole person and help them move from where we meet them in extreme material poverty to sustainability. So that's holistic. But how do we meet them from where they are in the brokenness that all of us have, and together take that journey toward the heart of God?
What are some of the ways that you make sure they know that you're here for the long haul?
Specific to our work in Nicaragua, it was building out a base camp, so that was step one. And I think the really cool thing about our work here is that the community is invested. And so step one was building the relationships to know their needs, and we've got a pretty interesting assessment process in that. It's called the 10 seed technique.
Ustedes como un grupo tienen que decidir cuántas semillas quiere aquí, cuánto aquí y cuánto aquí. Si tienen mucho control de los frijoles, la producción, el éxito, en el final usted va a tener muchas semillas aquí.
The thing you notice about Mission Hope is that they respect the people they're here to help. They spend the time to really understand what the needs are and then how the people themselves prioritize these needs. They truly bring them into the decision-making process. So it's a partnership. They learn from each other, and together they make a difference.
Whatever it is that they say, and each of them gets a cacao bean or some type of seed, and that represents their voice for the community. And then each of those community leaders puts their bean or their seed in the area that they think is the greatest of those needs.
Estamos, una comparación, recibiendo buen beneficio de esto.
¿Y en el caso de ahorita?
No.
Aquí habla de su control, su control.
You look at the full scope of our work, it's a 60-mile stretch, 14 communities, and all of those are remote, isolated communities, and the distance from the far one to the right and the far one to the left is really long. Our strategy for this project is to decrease that. It's still going to be 60 miles, but because of the relationships, because of the work, because of the way that they're collaborating and working together as these different isolated communities, all of a sudden that 60 miles comes down and it starts to feel like 5 miles because they have friends in the community that's 60 miles away. And our objective in all of our work and our final destination is that we would pull back and it's one big community of 14 instead of 14 isolated communities.
For our friends and neighbors back in the U.S. and around the world that have connected now with Kansas City and Mission Hope, what do you need from them?
We need people to go and serve that are aligned with the needs of the people that we are serving. We need money to fund what we're doing. This work is expensive and it's remote, and we need money to do that. It's easy to come out to a place like this and see all the need, and it touches your heart and you get impacted. And then you go home and don't really do anything about it. And these people need somebody to do something about it today.
As we reach the end of our time here in Kansas City along the Matagalpa River, I'd like to express my gratitude to Mission Hope for the kindness they've shown me. They're doing great work here. They love people genuinely, and they're making a very real difference, providing, guiding, and respecting. I am impressed and encouraged. For me now, the journey continues, and I hope you'll join me as we travel to some of the most remote corners of the globe to witness some of the most inspiring acts of service on the planet. Let's go to places we've never been, experience life like never before. Let's go beyond status quo as we discover what really matters out here on the edge of adventure.